Well, what is the most significant aspect of bringing Linkon Cure into the fold for you?
Actually, well, I'll be honest, it's probably the macro point of what they pulled off, like what they defeated to hang on to him. Like Ohio State couldn't hang on to their 5-star corner against that power of Oregon late. Cal couldn't hang on to their 5-star quarterback to fend off Oregon real late, and Kansas State could. Now, in fairness, they had the kind of the homegrown aspect working for them that they leveraged very well.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Hello and welcome into another edition of Three Ma. John Kurtz, Derek Young with you. This is your signing day recap edition of Three Ma. Yes, we do still have a high school national signing day. It may not be quite what it once was, but I'm not sure it's ever been as exciting for K-State fans as it was yesterday because the Wildcats signed Linkon Cure, a 5-star recruit. And listen, I could hear as we got the news, we got a text that it was done and good maybe a little after 8 o'clock, between 8 and 8:30 yesterday morning. I could hear all of you guys, especially Cole. I could hear all of you guys popping some Ben Holiday bottled and bond bourbon and just shooting it down at 8 o'clock in the morning because why not? Linkon Cure signed with the Cats. It's a big deal. Stole him away from Dan Lanning in Oregon. No Ben Holiday bottled and bond bourbon for you, Dan Lanning. And he's a KC guy. He probably knows about it. None for you, Dan Lanning. No 360 vodka either. But for the Cat fans, you can take all you want. Share it with your Oregon friends. You know, if they're feeling a little bit down, you can definitely do that too. Yes, DY.
Your favorite KSO poster, Baby Foz. His first post was at 6:30 yesterday morning saying he was celebrating and already into the booze. So
I love Baby Foss.
well, someone said it was 5 o'clock somewhere, and I literally posted after that. I was like, yeah, 5 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. 5 a.m. Well, who cares? You know, I was going to say desperate times, but it's the opposite of that. Like celebratory times, celebratory measures. You know, our friends at Holiday Distillery will help you out as always with that. Now, what I am confused by, Derek, is that K-State just kept a 5-star recruit away from the number one team in the country, the Oregon Ducks, and you show up today. I mean, not only wearing an LSU hat, like whatever, that's fine, but wearing an Oregon hoodie.
I'm trolling them. I'm trolling them.
Okay.
Because their fans probably don't want to wear their gear today. Actually, they probably do.
I was going to say, they flipped 2 other 5-stars yesterday.
And landed like 2 or 3 that they already have. I was looking, they flipped 5-stars from Cal and Ohio State. I was like, couldn't be us.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah, one of them being a 5-star quarterback, the one from Cal. So, like, I feel like, Oregon's just fine. That's the annoying thing. Like, their fans complaining about, like, what, you guys, you're the number one team in the country, like, on a rocket ship to the national title. You just flipped 2 other 5-stars. You're going to be okay. Just let us have this, all right? Just let us have this. But K-State does have this. And, of course, it is our top storyline of the show, which is brought to you by our friends at Alinco for all your home improvement needs. Hit up our guys at Alinco. You can go to alincohome.com. That's ALENCO home.com to get connected there, and they will help you out. But, man, it was a battle of a recruitment here. I was listening to Chris Kleiman's press conference earlier this morning, and he got asked, like, hey, when did you find out? And he was like, well, let me go back to, June when I first found out that he was coming here. And technically, he never actually officially wavered from that. But, man, Dan Lanning and Oregon were pretty relentless. He went on a visit just last weekend for Oregon's final home game. K-State was able to get it done. I'm not sure we ever felt great about it in the final hours until the very, very end. But, man, Brian LePack, Chris Kleiman, Taylor Bratt, like everybody involved that made that happen, Avery Johnson doing some work. They really earned every penny that they're being paid with getting Linkon Cure to sign.
Absolutely. I kind of did make the joke, and I don't mean this to be like offensive towards anyone, but I don't know if I remember a recruit having 2 live announcements without ever flipping. Like, he had he had an announcement to commit and then had an announcement to say, I'm still committed. So that was interesting. That tells you kind of maybe a peek into behind the curtain as to the consternation of how this one was going to unfold in probably the final month when it got a little hairy on Kansas State, when he almost visited Oregon, and then he still actually visited Oregon. He insisted upon that trip and visited from when they hosted Washington, and really capped off a 12-0 regular season and the number one team in America, the only undefeated school in the country, backed by Phil Knight, backed by what I think is perhaps the best recruiting staff in America potentially, and what I think has probably become the second best head coach in college football, maybe the best one not named Kirby Smart. And people will be like, "What? Well, he doesn't have a national title." Well, go look across the country, and there's not many head coaches that have a national title anymore because they're all gone. I think there's only 2 left since Mac Brown just got fired, essentially, and I think it's Dabo Sweeney's the other outside of Kirby Smart, I believe.
You're correct.
And I feel like Dabo's, everyone would agree, has lost his fastball, and that Dan Lanning is sped way past that. So to defeat all of those things that Ohio State fell to, that other blue blood programs fall to, and win, I think that's a big deal and kind of shows you the recruiting profile and maybe the NIL power that is behind Kansas State in recent years since Chris Kleiman has been hired, because Linkon Cure is the first 5-star, the highest rated one that he has pulled in. But I mean, he has won national recruiting battles before this as well that we thought would be unheard of just 5-6 years ago, if you consider Avery Johnson, Dylan Edwards, and even like the smaller ones in state that they had to beat other powerful.
Jordan Allen,
Will Ancio, Wesley Fair. So Kansas State's recruiting profile is certainly raised, and they are far more competitive on the recruiting trail than I thought they could ever be when I first got here to cover the beat in 2017.
and one thing I do want to emphasize here, because I think we can say this, people will wonder about the money. K-State is in a great situation NIL wise, but like, first of all, you do not need to worry about that at all. But I would also say, I had people texting me yesterday, like, damn, like, did they must have just backed up a Brinks truck yesterday to make sure that he stayed home. I don't think it was anything crazy. I mean, certainly they were very competitive enough to beat Oregon, but I don't think this was about dumping a ton of money at his feet at the last minute. That's not,
No, it's not like they're now broke and can't afford transfers. There's not a scenario like that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, I think it's a great macro point that you make about that, because it's easy in the minutia of everything in the day-to-day to get caught up in like, frustrated that you lost out on this guy, or, people were very much sky is falling on the football program in general within the last couple of weeks with the way the season ended, and it's all going to fall apart, and this is all going to... Guys, the program is in so much better of a place than it was like 3, 4, 5 years ago. And, remember that, what was it, the 2020 class where they had the big in-state, Kai Thomas was there, Turner Corcoran was there, all these high-profile guys in state, and you felt like, hey, this is the moment, and K-State just couldn't quite get there. And those guys weren't even at the level that like an Avery Johnson or Linkon Cure or Dylan Edwards actually were. And to think about the amount of progress that's been made since then, like sometimes we lose sight of the forest through the trees, and nobody really wants to hear that, but it's a fantastic point about where this staff is and how far they have come on the recruiting front.
And I would argue you have to lose some of those battles before you can begin to win them as well, because you can't just say, oh, we're here, give them to us. You have to like put in the time and the years as well before you can get to that point.
Yeah. Well, what is the most significant aspect of bringing Linkon Cure into the fold for you?
I'll be honest, it's probably the macro point of what they pulled off, like what they defeated to hang on to him. Like Ohio State couldn't hang on to their 5-star corner against that power of Oregon late. Cal couldn't hang on to their 5-star quarterback to fend off Oregon real late, and Kansas State could. Now, in fairness, they had the kind of the homegrown aspect working for them that they leveraged very well, but to defeat perhaps the best running program in the country last minute for a 5-star, speaks for itself. The next step is, what does that mean for Kansas State on the field, and like what impact does he have? How quickly? I mean, that's all up in the air. One of those things that is because also he's not an early enrollee, so that kind of impacts things a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be dictated by the progress he can make between basically June 1st and when this team goes to Ireland. And that'll tell us how much. But I would say this, because of his stature, because of how athletic he is and how much of a weapon he can be, volume can be debated, but I think at some point he's got to play. So I think he's going to play, but how much, that June 1st to Ireland trip, the progress in that time period will probably tell the tale.
Yeah, that is the interesting element of this, is like, and I hate to even like start to go down this road, but, and people will get mad at me, but I feel like you have to in college football in 2024. But like, okay, you won this battle. The war is not over because players can leave whenever, right? I mean, the transfer portal, and, you know, Dan Lanning or whoever it might be is not going to let up on this thing. So you don't, the point is, if it's a rough first year and he's not playing at all, you probably got to find a way to use him. And you've got a bunch of tight ends that are contributing right now, which is a part of the selling point, right? You've got more tight end touchdowns than anybody in the country, but you've also got 4 tight ends that are regularly playing right now. And, you know, all definitely offer you something. So they're not the athlete that Linkon Cure is, but it may be a little tricky to maneuver that situation and figure out how to get him in there and keep him happy this year.
But he can be used in a multitude of ways that none of those other 4 tight ends certainly could. Like if you wanted to line him up a little bit out wide as a wide receiver per se, I think you could get away with it as well. And it might be easier for him to get on the field that way sooner, because I always say this, actually I learned this from other head coaches that I've covered, but the further away from the ball you get, the easier it is to play early, actually. So if you think about that, and if it's like logical, wide receivers, corners, those types can get on the field a little bit sooner. So, and I think wide receivers a little bit, especially Kansas State's offense, a much easier transition, at least early, than tight end. So you do have that working for you, and I wonder if they use that to their benefit.
Well, especially because we feel like the receiver room is probably going to go through a lot of change. I mean, they may need a little bit of help out there. And we heard that Kansas, that was a part of the pitch. Like Kansas was like, hey, you can come here and play receiver. So, you know, that's something other people had been offering and throwing out there to them. So yeah, would not shock me at all. Real quick before we break, one final thing I want to throw out there, just from the recruiting process here. I mean, I'm certainly under the impression that Brian LePack is, you know, rising star. There were rumors about Oklahoma trying to come after him late in the process, and he obviously is, well, late. I don't know what I mean late in the process. Recently, they decided to keep all their assistants, but he's a coveted guy, and he had to do a lot of work. He's a tight ends coach. How do you assess, like, you know, who gets the credit here for the Linkon Cure recruitment? I know it involved virtually everybody on staff, but just to give some shout outs here to everybody involved, where would you put it?
The 3 that to me were the most prominent were Brian LePack, Chris Kleiman, and Taylor Bratt. Those 3. When on that official visit in June, when Linkon Cure called so-and-so, said, take me to the stadium. Who was so-and-so? It was Taylor Bratt. Who do you want to meet with at the stadium? You wanted to meet with Chris Kleiman. Or he did end up meeting with Chris Kleiman. So those 2, just for that moment, the 2 that he like flocked to in that moment have to be significant. But the work that Brian LePack did retention-wise between that time and up until yesterday has to be identified as well. He also snagged Will Ancio as well, which is one of the first true in-state recruiting battles they won, because Will Ancio, I believe, 5 the time right, it feels like forever ago, even committed before, like Avery Johnson and that crew. So Brian LePack quickly become one of the better recruiters on the staff. So he will be coveted. Probably already has been at times. Oklahoma, not hiring anybody new or getting rid of anyone. around their new OC, while questionable to me,
Yeah.
definitely proves to be a good thing for Kansas State.
Yeah, hey, I'm not gonna argue it. Good call, Benzie. I agree, buddy. All right.
Well, Black played at Oklahoma, right? That's or at least he has some kind of degree from there. I know that,
okay.
but he has like 24 degrees. So,
Well, let's get the man some home field apparel. All right, please give Brian LePack some home field apparel. Derek, as I mentioned, Derek's got too much. He's wearing an Oregon hoodie. He's wearing an LSU hat today.
Yep.
But I mean, it looks great. I like the style of the LSU hat for sure.
yeah, I like the hat. I also, had to shout out Brian Kelly for those comments yesterday. It's like, oh man, these kids, they don't go for the best fit. They go for the top dollar. And I say that, 2.5 years after I turned down Notre Dame's offer to chase a $100 million contract and a fake Southern accent to go to LSU.
Yeah, I was gonna say the problem with that, it's like if he wanted to make the argument, hey, better fit to win a national championship at LSU, I can't do it at Notre Dame. Okay, I can listen to that. But then when you come in and you do the fake Southern accent thing, it's like, all right, buddy, like
you're a Northeastern Catholic. You weren't the fit LSU. Okay.
You can't blame these guys. Glad that it's going horribly for him at LSU. Could not be more thrilled.
Lost their quarterback too. Yeah.
Brian Kelly could feel better about things if he went to homefieldapparel.com and I'm so screwed up now. Are we back to we're off the Cyber Monday, right? You missed the Cyber Monday deal. Okay. Yeah. What promo code 3MON24 to get 15% off your first order. We're back to that, right? That is correct. Okay. Promo code 3MON24 to get 15% off your first order at Home Field Apparel. Man, I freaking love those guys. They have been so good to us. Someone was DMing me about this the other day, like excited about how much they saved for Cyber Monday. And I was like, yes, please. Like those people are great to us. Great for college football fans. They are just blowing up, exploding. So go to homefieldapparel.com, check out all their K-State designs. They've got a ton of it there. We're back in just a moment.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Okay, so if we're looking at this class overall, first of all, DY, I mean, look, I know it's not your fault, but On3 still does not list Linkon Cure as a 5-star recruit. But K-State has the number 38 class overall now, number 4 in the Big 12 behind TCU, Colorado, and Baylor. I think people would be very excited to know that. Usually you're down in that, 9, 10, 11, 12 range. Pretty solid here. And K-State had a great signing day. You could sense that Chris Kleiman, I mean, he said as much, but even just in his tone at the press conference yesterday, they had a big day. So take us through everything else that happened for the Wildcats on signing day that turned into such an awesome day.
I'll point out another macro point that I think even you will be like, okay, you know what, that class with Avery Johnson was ranked that week, and it wasn't just Avery Johnson, right? They got Will Ancia, they got Jordan Allen, I think Will Lee might have been in that class, but
yeah,
I'd have to go and look, but
yep, he was.
Yeah, that class ranked 37th, and this one's 38th. So we're talking about a comparable class. And I think that needs to be at least highlighted, that they went and did some business this year as well, in terms of they've just really have kind of settled into that top 40 lock range under Chris Kleiman recruiting wise. Now his first one was like, I think in the 60s, and he had one in the 50s, I believe. And then ever since, it's like top 40, top 40, top 40, top 40. And you're not going to win. I'll be honest, it's hard to win a national championship if you're having a recruiting class in the 30s. But Kansas State was winning Big 12 titles and competing at a pretty high level consistently with recruiting classes ranked in the 50s and 60s. We talk about Kansas State perennially being in the top 40s, and then that should really elevate them in the Big 12 nationally in terms of other accomplishments that they can achieve. And we're starting to see that. Obviously, the last 2 years, the finishes were they ended with duds. But let's be honest, 2022, you won a Big 12 title. In 2023 and 2024, you are picked to be in the thick of the Big 12 title race. and I imagine you probably will be again next year. So that's 4 straight years where, just from a public perception, I think you're considered Big 12 title contenders. I think Iowa State will be back next year as thought that way. Baylor's, I think it'll be, if I had to guess, it'll be K-State, Iowa State, Arizona State, Baylor. Those.
Boy, I don't know. You got more faith in. We'll see. The media is fickle, and you're finished with a kind of a thud. So I don't.
Off seasons will also depend on how you build out your roster. Like, let's say hypothetically, Kansas State adds a Kevin Concepcion.
Well, that would help a lot. I'm not optimistic about that really, but that would help.
Well, I'm not there yet. At most, it's a wide open recruitment, but I'm just saying, like, the next couple of months will also tell us a lot. Yeah. But anyway, you're in that group, sort of, in my opinion. And I think that's a product of having these consistently top 40 recruiting classes. Now, Drew did his superlatives. I guess that's a good way to maybe kind of wind through these things.
Well, I wanted to just cover yesterday, like everything that happened yet. So Sirius Stinyard flips from West Virginia.
Well, West Virginia, yeah, because Neil Brown got fired. So thanks, Neil. Did your boy Chris Kleiman a solid there. Sirius Stinyard was at one time one of the top players on their board overall about a year ago. West Virginia got him after the official visits in the summer. As soon as Neil Brown's fired, he's like, I don't want anything to do with this. And he calls out Chris Kleiman and says, I'm back in. Or Joe Clairman, maybe. So that's one. Larry Porter, you beat out KU for a local guy that really blossomed late, a wide receiver out of Raytown High. Not many kids come out of Raytown High, but he was very heavily sought after by both KU and K-State. Actually, parents are big KU people, so K-State kind of undid that one pretty well. Then what else happened? Oh, you flipped off to lineman Dylan Villaruel from James Madison. He's a huge interior lineman from North Forsyth, Georgia. So you got Cure, Villaruel, Porter, Stinyard. Those were the 4. I guess you got Stinyard, or you got Cure and 3 new ones yesterday.
Yeah. So big day for sure. Okay. I like going down the road of superlatives. Like outside of Linkon Cure, who do you think is the most impactful in this recruiting class?
Like day one kind of dude. Well, Logan Bartley, that's actually a kid that over the summer they flipped from Wake Forest. Not the highest ranked safety in the class, but I think he is the best safety in the class. And I think he plays early. That dude's very, very physical. And I think they believe they got a gem, absolute gem in him. So I think that's a big deal. Sirius Stinyard has a chance probably, as much as they like him. And JoJo Scott, a corner out of Florida that I think got calls from the heavy hitters in Florida late and basically said, I don't really care. So sticks with K-State. Other than that, that's probably your most impactful guys outside of, obviously you would consider the JUCO guys because they're probably being brought in to play at an earlier clip. They're obviously older. That's wide receiver JD Davis. And then I don't know why the second one is, the defensive lineman Patrick Tackey.
What about, quarterback's always sexy, right? You have a quarterback in this class, Dylan Duff. Chris Kleiman really raved about him and his leadership ability and how much of an athlete he was, really good basketball player as well. What can you tell us about the long-term prognostication there for Duff at quarterback?
Yeah, he's okay. He's solid. I don't think any service really goes over the top for him. It looks like the one that's the highest on him is actually Rivals at number 34 quarterback in the country. I like him. He's probably a guy. It'll be a system guy. If he gets in there a little bit, he can really be effective after a few years. Nothing really, I would say, absolutely blows me away about him other than being just pretty good at a little bit of everything. But it did take me back to Chris Kleiman. He lit up about Dylan Duff a little bit more than the rest in that class. So that's not nothing. And I think he's playing for a state championship this weekend, it sounds like.
He is. Yeah. I mean, that was, I hadn't heard a lot of conversation really about Dylan Duff in a while. Now, I mean, some of that
just met a really good program in St. Louis. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I saw there were a bunch of other kids signing at big schools with him. I just had kind of forgotten about him, and man, Kleiman really did light up. So, all right, what I was looking for the superlatives here, DY, and
He hasn't published them yet, so that's why. Or I haven't published them. The diamond in the rough. He will have picked Montario Elston, the running back, super explosive, home run hitter type. Mine would I would lean towards something else. I like Darian Whitaker, just a freak defensive athlete from Omaha, Nebraska, that they grabbed late for that, because I don't think he really gets a lot of attention. And I think he has some traits that really, really translate to a high level of college football, even if they're incredibly raw. He's probably boom or bust type, which I think applies here a little bit. And then the wide receiver they grabbed late and beat KU for, Larry Porter. I mean, KU and K-State really, really went hard and after each other for that one.
Were there other offers there? I mean, is it just?
No, that's it. But he didn't get those offers from KU and K-State until like November either. So they were all late. It was a group of 5 kid basically up until the last month of recruiting. And KU and K-State were like, okay, I think they saw the final senior film and the fact that he had more receiving yards than anyone in the entire Kansas City Metro.
Who's the leader of this class?
He put down RJ Collins. I would probably agree with that. RJ Collins he's probably one of the better personalities on the team. His parents both went to K-State. He basically, told USC to kick rocks after a little bit to stay with K-State, because he did get a USC offer, also from Kansas City. So, he's a guy who's always got a smile on his face too. He comes to mind. Noah King talked to a lot of kids in the class too. So those 2 safeties really come to mind. I think this is a really good defensive back class in general.
Yeah, Noah King. That was another guy Kleiman really kind of lit up about in the.
Yeah, I asked about him because I was like, dude's from Ohio. I got to ask about him.
That's right. I didn't even connect the dots on that. Yeah. What? I mean, how did they? I guess Kleiman sort of explained it, but how did that happen? I mean, they don't go into Ohio.
Yeah, they don't go into Ohio, so I'm not sure. I think it might have been a guy they saw at a different camp when they left or something, and they like, you're kind of good, and he's like, yeah, I want to come or I want to visit, and they're like, well, we want to see, I think, compete a little bit more in person. I know you're from Ohio. You want to come to camp? He's like, hell yeah, I'll come to camp. I don't know. He just, and Kid State wasn't his only Power 4 offer either, I don't think. And now he's, I believe, a 4-star on 247 Sports, if I remember correctly. But he just seemed like every time K State was like, "Will you do this?" He's like, "Sure." I don't know, just randomly a kid that was very engaging, and for a kid from Ohio, it's very engaging and reciprocating the strong interest from Kansas State just instantly. You're like, because it's a kid with already Power 4 offers, and they invite him to camp, and he's from Ohio. It's a long trip. They probably were not expecting him to bite much. As soon as he did, they're like, okay, maybe we got a shot here. We'll invest. We'll invest in trying to get this kid on campus, and obviously it went well.
Yeah. Any final thoughts about the class? Anything that we haven't covered?
Well, we got a kicker/punter in the class, that Cub Patton. Hell of a name.
I do. I was gonna say, I love the name, man. Cub Patton. That's a good name. He's from Lubbock. A lot of cool stuff there, man. A lot of cool stuff. What are you doing, Joey? Joey, letting that one out of your backyard? Too worried about, money whipping coordinators to come over to hold on to kickers that are right there? I guess so.
Yeah, that one's interesting. About the Kansas kids, obviously, as well. Ashton Moore, the younger brother of Ashton Moore from Lewisburg, Kansas. He's one. McGuire Richmond, linebacker from Blue Valley High School. They do well at Blue Valley. They basically go into Blue Valley, it seems, and basically get anyone they want at this point, even if they have other Power 4 offers. McGuire's older brother is Mason Richmond, the starting offensive tackle at Iowa that K-State liked at one time as well too. Corner, Martell Jackson from Derby. I will say this, you got Dylan Edwards from Derby last year. You got Martell Jackson from Derby this year. You nearly flipped Deshaun Brain late as well. The Derby curse seems to be fixed a little bit.
Yeah.
I would say that. And then, Brock Heath.
Keith, right? Brock Heath?
Yeah, what time was a 4-star prospect? I think he got bumped down to 3 now, but from Blue Valley Northwest, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, fun signing day for the Cats. Fun to squeeze that in there. It still is kind of insane to me that you do this on December 5th. There's so much going on. Transfer portal is about to open. Can't imagine being a coach, but it was a good day. Good day for everybody involved with K-State. So make sure to raise a glass. Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond Bourbon, 360 Vodka. Wear your home field apparel and get your home improvement done with Alenco at alencohome.com, ALENCO home.com. Thanks to all of our great sponsors again. Thanks to Nick Springer behind the scenes. For DY, I'm John. Thanks for listening to another edition of Three Law.